The sterling silver spoon clinked against fine bone china as I stirred my Earl Grey, watching steam rise in delicate swirls. The Henderson family dining room, with its hand-carved mahogany panels and crystal chandeliers, had hosted our dynasty's major decisions for 3 generations. Today's annual inheritance meeting would be no different, or so they thought. "Now then," Dad announced, adjusting his gold-rimmed glasses while reviewing his papers, "shall we proceed with the final property distributions?" His Mont Blanc pen tapped rhythmically against our great-grandfather's antique desk, imported from Vienna in 1932. From my seat at the massive dining table, I could see the harbor through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Container ships crawled across the horizon like giant metal insects, their movements deliberate and precise. 5 years ago, I'd tried explaining to my family how automated logistics could revolutionize those movements. They'd laughed. "The downtown portfolio first," Dad continued, his voice carrying that authoritative tone he'd perfected over 40 years in real estate. "Jessica will receive the main office building at 247 Wellington Street, along with the surrounding commercial properties in blocks A through F." My sister's perfectly manicured hands clasped together in delight. Her Cartier bracelet caught the afternoon sun, sending prisms dancing across the damask tablecloth. "Daddy, that's perfect. I always knew my MBA would come in handy. Those properties have amazing development potential." Mom beamed at her, pride evident in her expertly lifted features. "You'll do wonderful things with it, darling. The Henderson name will shine even brighter under your leadership." I maintained my composure, sipping my tea quietly. The bergamot citrus notes helped mask the bitter taste of their predictable favoritism. After all, I'd spent the last 5 years being the family's greatest disappointment. The daughter who'd wasted her time studying maritime logistics and international trade instead of following the family's real estate path. "The Wellington Street properties alone are valued at $240 million, Jessica added, unable to contain her excitement. "And with my plans for mixed-use development, we could double that within 3 years." Dad nodded approvingly. "Which brings us to the next item." He shuffled through his papers, each movement deliberate and weighted with significance. "The Maritime properties." My hand stilled for just a moment. "Here it comes. Jessica will oversee all 47 port properties and their associated facilities. Given her excellent work with the commercial developments, I'm confident she'll maximize their potential." Mom reached over to pat Jessica's hand. "Of course she will. Those old ports just need a proper vision. Luxury condos, high-end shopping." "And finally," Dad cleared his throat, glancing at me with that familiar look of disappointment, "Sarah will receive the garage property behind the old warehouse district." The garage. A supposedly dilapidated structure near the port, barely worth mentioning in our family's vast portfolio. Jessica didn't even try to hide her smirk. "It suits you," she said, adjusting her rose gold Rolex. "You can park that embarrassing Prius of yours there. Maybe even start a little. What was it you studied?" "Boat business." The patronizing tone made my tea taste even more bitter, but I kept my expression neutral. 5 years of practice had made me an expert at hiding my thoughts during these family performances. "The garage needs some work," Dad added as if trying to soften the blow, "but it could be serviceable with proper renovation." Mom touched my hand with feigned sympathy. "Darling, maybe this will motivate you to finally join the family business properly. The garage could be your office while you learn from Jessica. She's so good with property development." I placed my cup down carefully, noting how the afternoon sun caught the edge of my simple stainless steel watch, a stark contrast to my sister's diamond-encrusted timepiece. "Thank you," I said simply. "The garage will be perfect." "Perfect for storage maybe," Jessica snorted. "Though I doubt you own enough to fill it. But don't worry, little sister. Once I develop the ports into luxury venues, maybe you can manage one of the smaller yacht clubs." My phone buzzed quietly against the table. A secure message notification lit up the screen. "Maritime Holdings transfer complete. All 47 luxury ports now under your control." I glanced at it briefly, then returned to my tea. The timing was impeccable, really. 5 years of careful planning, strategic acquisitions, and absolute secrecy were about to bear fruit. "Sarah, are you even listening?" Dad's voice carried that familiar edge of frustration. "This is important. Your sister is taking over as CEO of Henderson Properties next month. You should at least pretend to be interested in the family legacy. The irony of his words almost made me smile. Almost. Of course, Dad. Please continue. I gestured for him to go on, watching Jessica practically preen at each mention of her new title. My phone buzzed again. System integration complete. Command center online. In exactly 4 minutes and 30 seconds, their entire world would shift on its axis. But for now, I just poured another cup of tea, watching the steam rise like the calm before a storm. The garage, as it turned out, was just the beginning. The delicate balance of power in the Henderson family dining room was about to shatter like fine china dropped on marble. I watched the seconds tick by on my modest watch, a seemingly simple timepiece that actually housed a secure connection to my global operations network. Now, about the management transition timeline. Dad began, but his Bloomberg phone alert cut him off. He glanced at it, frowned, and looked again. The color slowly drained from his face. Daddy. Jessica leaned forward, her perfectly highlighted hair catching the late afternoon sun. What's wrong? Before he could answer, every screen in the room flickered to life simultaneously. The wall-mounted TV, the smart displays in the antique cabinets, even the digital photo frame on Mom's prized sideboard. I'd had my tech team prepare this particular flourish weeks ago. Breaking news, the Bloomberg anchor announced, his voice filling the room through hidden speakers. In what industry experts are calling the most sophisticated maritime acquisition of the century, Phoenix Maritime Holdings has just completed a leveraged buyout of 47 luxury ports across 3 continents. Jessica laughed nervously, reaching for her phone. But those are our ports. There must be some mistake. Her perfectly manicured fingers trembled as she pulled up her portfolio app. I can't access the Maritime Holdings. The acquisition, valued at $8.4 billion, was executed through a complex series of shell companies and strategic purchases over the past 5 years, the anchor continued. Phoenix Maritime's innovative automated logistics system has already been secretly operating in these ports, reducing costs by 78% while increasing efficiency by 215%. Dad's hands shook as he dialed his lawyer's number. George, what the hell is happening? Our maritime properties. He listened, his face growing increasingly red. What do you mean, legally transferred? How? Mom's diamond bracelet clinked against her crystal water glass. Robert, she whispered, how much were those ports worth? The ports themselves? I spoke for the first time since the news broke. About $8.4 billion as mentioned. But with my automated systems and the exclusive technology patents. I pulled out my tablet, displaying a real-time valuation. Closer to $23.7 billion now. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the ice in Jessica's whiskey glass stopped clinking. Your automated systems? Mom's voice was barely audible. I nodded, standing smoothly. With a few quick gestures on my tablet, the dining room's smart glass windows transformed into display screens, showing real-time operations across all 47 ports. Autonomous cranes danced their careful ballet, AI-guided ships docked with millimeter precision, and smart containers arranged themselves in perfect optimization patterns. Remember my boring thesis on maritime logistics? I moved to the window screens, letting my family see the empire I'd built right under their noses. It wasn't just theoretical. I've spent the last 5 years implementing these systems across every port you thought was underperforming. Jessica stood so quickly her chair toppled backward. This is impossible. I have the transfer documents right here. She pulled up files on her phone, then froze. These aren't the same documents from this morning. No, I agreed. Those were cleverly crafted placeholders. The real transfers happened gradually, through a network of shell companies and blind trusts. By the time you signed what you thought was your inheritance paperwork this morning, you were actually signing away your claim to properties you didn't technically own anymore. Dad slammed his fist on the table, making the fine china rattle. I taught you everything you know about business. How could you? No, Dad, I cut him off quietly. You taught Jessica everything you know about traditional real estate. I learned about modern global commerce, automated logistics, and digital transformation while you were dismissing my education as a waste of time. My phone buzzed again. Another news alert. Phoenix Maritime Holdings CEO to ring opening bell at NYSE tomorrow. Stock expected to IPO at $450 per share. You're the CEO of Phoenix Maritime? Mom's hand flew to her throat, clutching her pearls. Among other things. I pulled up another screen showing my technology patents. Did you know that every major port in the world will have to license my automation systems within the next 5 years? Maritime law now requires efficiency standards that only my technology can meet. Jessica sank back into her righted chair, her perfect composure cracking. The garage, she whispered. It's not just a garage, is it? I allowed myself a small smile. Would you like to see what your generous inheritance to me actually is? Without waiting for an answer, I activated the garage's security feeds. The supposedly dilapidated building transformed on screen into a gleaming command center, its subterranean levels housing the most advanced maritime logistics AI in the world. You see, while you were all focused on the visible empire, I gestured to the streams of data flowing across the windows. I built an invisible one. One that doesn't just own ports. It controls how every port in the world will operate for the next generation. Dad's phone began ringing incessantly. Then Mom's. Then Jessica's. Board members, shareholders, reporters, all wanting answers about the Henderson family's spectacular loss of their maritime properties. Don't worry, I said, gathering my things. I'll leave you the real estate holdings. They're worth something, even if it's barely a rounding error compared to Phoenix Maritime's value. I paused at the door. Oh, and Jessica? You might want to cancel that CEO announcement party next week. I don't think Henderson Properties carries quite the same weight anymore. The last thing I saw as I left was my sister's mascara-stained face reflected in the windows, surrounded by the glowing data of my empire, an empire built in the shadows of their contempt. The next morning I stood in my command center, the garage that my family had so graciously gifted me. Floor-to-ceiling holographic displays cast a blue glow across the polished concrete floors, showing real-time data from all 47 ports. Through the electrochromic glass walls, I watched massive cargo ships glide into port with unprecedented precision, guided by my AI systems. Ms. Henderson, my executive assistant Michael appeared silently at my side, tablet in hand. Your family is here. I checked my watch, 7:30 a.m. sharp. Earlier than I expected. How do they look? Your father appears to have aged a decade overnight. Your sister's makeup isn't quite covering the evidence of tears, and your mother. He paused diplomatically, seems to have dressed in haste. Quite a change from yesterday's power suits and perfect hair. I adjusted my own Tom Ford blazer. Show them in and activate full display protocols. The command center transformed as my family entered. Hidden screens emerged from walls, holographic projections materialized in mid-air, and the floor became transparent, revealing the massive quantum computing facility below. Their faces reflected in every surface, multiplying their shock 100-fold. Good God, Dad whispered, his usually commanding voice reduced to a rasp. His silver hair was unkempt, his designer suit wrinkled. What is this place? This, I gestured to the surrounding technology, is what a garage looks like when you invest in innovation instead of luxury condos. Jessica stumbled slightly, catching herself on a nearby console. Her Louboutins, usually perfect, were scuffed. The board meeting this morning. It was a disaster. Our shareholders are understandably concerned. I completed her sentence, pulling up real-time stock tickers. Henderson Properties stock was in free fall, while Phoenix Maritime's pre-IPO valuation soared. Funny how quickly things change when you lose your most valuable assets. Mom sank into a nearby chair, her Hermes scarf askew. Sarah, darling, surely we can discuss this as a family. We're still Hendersons. Are we? I walked to the central command station, my heels clicking on the transparent floor. Was I part of the family when you dismissed my education? When you relegated me to the disappointing daughter? When you planned Jessica's CEO announcement without even consulting me? A massive holographic globe materialized above us, showing all my ports glowing in brilliant blue. Shipping lanes crisscrossed the projection like luminous arteries, each vessel tracked and optimized by my systems. Do you know what this is? I pointed to a cluster of data streams. This is the future of global commerce. While you were planning luxury developments, I was revolutionizing how the world moves goods. Dad stepped forward, his business instincts finally kicking in. We can work together. Henderson Properties could. Could what? I cut him off. Manage my port properties? With outdated methods and no understanding of modern logistics. I pulled up performance comparisons. My automated systems have already increased efficiency by 300%. Your management would only drag that down. Jessica, who had been studying the financial displays with growing horror, spoke up. The Saudi investors, they're pulling out of Henderson Properties. Of course they are. I smiled slightly. They're investing in Phoenix Maritime instead. Along with the Chinese consortium, the European Union's Technology Fund, and 7 of the world's largest shipping companies. A notification chimed through the room. Speaking of which, I accepted the incoming call, letting it play through the room's speakers. Miss Henderson, the voice said. Your automation patents are now the global standard for all ports. Thank you, Chairman. My team will start right away. I ended the call. I turned to my family. That's a real business win. Mom's hand shook as she saw her phone fill with messages. What do I tell the charity board? Tell them the truth, I said. While you celebrated Jessica, I built an empire bigger than Henderson Properties. Dad's voice cracked. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have listened? I asked. 5 years ago I tried. You told me to stop playing with boats. Jessica leaned on the wall. The garage. It wasn't just a garage? No, I said. It's the world's top maritime command center. It will control shipping for years. Dad's eyes lit with hope. What's your proposal? You can handle real estate near 3 of my smaller ports. Standard rates. Michael handed them contracts. You'll work under me. Jessica gasped. Under you? Yes, little sister. Under me. I checked my watch. I have a stock exchange bell to ring. Michael will show you out. I paused. Oh, Jessica. Your corner office is now a data center.